the boundaries.
But I don't know if that's even up to where you're up to.
195.
17th, that was it. So.
I think a little chickadee.
All right. Hey there, Lynn. How are you?
Hi, Lynn.
Okay.
How are you?
We are well, Baruch Hashem. We are well. Okay.
195.
All right. We're taking votes on where we're up to.
I have no clue.
Youngest first.
Aww.
What do you say? No.
Well,
Derech Hashem.
she's still learning how to read.
Oh, okay. She hasn't quite gotten the Hebrew done yet? Okay. Working on it.
She'll get there. Check in the
next class?
Yeah, next
okay.
194.
Kids these days.
Okay.
So advanced.
The ability.
Yes.
We always go above the normal realm of nature.
Give me a place, not a description.
195.
I want to say 194 Gimel, I think we're up to.
I think 193.
Huh.
We definitely finished
That's
that
all
page.
it is.
Yeah. That's all we expect from him, though. It's fine.
Positional defiance.
Come on, Brad. Nothing to say? There we go.
Can we clarify who's supposed to drink when?
All right.
I think that's an important feature of this.
There we go. Num are the non-coffee drinkers.
Okay.
Hine are the coffee drinkers.
Okay,
That's it.
that's it.
That's it.
But we tend to l'chaim with both of them.
Right, exactly.
I feel like we've been l'chaim in both.
Yes, we're definitely overdoing the l'chaims.
I mean,
But
is
hey,
there such a thing?
never killed anyone, right?
least-
Well, actually.
At least we're not drinking wine, right? Or
Exactly.
schnapps or whatever.
All right, then let's get started here. So we are up to Gimel. This is section 3, chapter 2, letter 3, Gimel. Anybody got that?
The baby.
What page is that? 194 and 195? Is that correct?
Yes.
Anybody?
Yes, correct. 195.
When did you do
bottom.
193?
When you were
Fell
sleeping.
asleep for that.
All right, here we go. All right, so what we said until now was, excuse me. What we said until now was that there's a guideline for everything. Everything in the physical realm has certain limitations, and our access to the spiritual realms also carries certain limitations. So even when a person is able to access the spiritual realms, that still carries certain boundaries with it. Just like we understand there are boundaries of the physical, like he said, you can't cut with something flat, you can't squeeze something hard. There are certain laws of physics that this world, the physical world, runs with, and the spiritual world is the same way. There are certain regulations, so to speak, that are in play. So even when a person is given the opportunity to access the spiritual realms in whatever form that may be, that still has certain boundaries and limitations to it. Okay, so let's see what he says. And in addition, part of this discussion includes, we've already explained, man is a combination of two opposites, and they are guf and neshama, the body and the soul. These are opposites. These are two things that really shouldn't have anything to do with each other, and yet Hashem created mankind to be a combination of the two. Now the neshama, the soul, is limited in the body with the boundaries that are set by the physical. The way Hashem's wisdom decided it should be. Meaning to say that a neshama is a spiritual thing, and really it should exist beyond any kinds of limitations. However, since it's contained within the body, So it gains, or I guess it acquires, some limitations because of its being contained in a physical mass. So that which is physical is only going to allow so much movement or activity within the spiritual, because physical and spiritual really don't connect. So therefore the neshama is being kind of held back by the fact that it's in the body. V'nimtza, so it comes out that adam mugbal b'matzavei hagufani, that a person is limited in his physical state, b'chukas haguf u'mishpatei hachomer, based on the laws of physics, of the way the world and physical things work. V'nishmasai, and his soul, kishura ba'avaisais eileh, latetzamehem, is bound by these ropes, and it cannot leave. So the physical body is bound by the laws of physics, and the spiritual soul is contained within that and is therefore bound by those laws also to some degree. V'ulam, however, Ratza Adam Baruch Hu sheyeh derech la'adam. Hashem wanted that there should be a way for a person sheyuchol yispateach b'miktsas mikishuri hagufani yisazeh b'shul shelo yisaf, that a person should have the opportunity to partially get out of these limitations, to partially break free of these chains of physicality that hold the neshama back from doing everything that it would be able to do otherwise. And it should be possible for a person to have things happen that are not within the normal parameters of the laws of the physical world. Rather, there can be certain instances that will follow the laws of the spiritual. So, what he's talking about here is that there are times where people can transcend the world of physics, and they're able to do things or experience things that are not contained within the confines of physics, and that's an opportunity that Hashem has decided to incorporate into the world. Obviously, it's going to be when and where He wants it to be, but there is such thing. There's such thing as the laws of physics being suspended and a person being able to use their spiritual side to accomplish things that are not physically possible. Okay? Okay. And through this, Tagialai haskala v'hasaga baruchni and binyaneim. It is through these experiences that a person is able to reach an understanding of things that are spiritual. Which would have been impossible for him to do had he remained within the normal physical realms and limitations. So what he's saying here is that this ability that is granted at times for a person to either themselves or to something around them to experience this idea of transcending the physical world, that can allow them to gain an understanding of the divine in a way that they would not be able to. So just simply put, we as human beings are unable to understand something that is not within the realms of time and space. We cannot understand what that means for multiple things to happen without it either being at the same time or one after the other. We don't understand a world, an existence without time. We can't understand an existence without space. These are things we can't fathom because we don't have any experience with it. We are only physical beings, and our experiences in life are only physical. However, if a person were to reach the level that he's describing over here and be able to transcend this physical world, then they can attain an understanding of spiritual things which don't work within the laws of physics. And they work in a whole different realm, different laws, different rules that are not physical at all, and that can give a person an understanding of something which they would not be able to understand otherwise. So we may find that there are some great people who are able to understand things that are well beyond our comprehension, And this may be how they get that, because they're able to ascend to these levels, at which point their understanding is not limited by the body anymore. Their understanding can now be spiritually guided.
Because they can experience it, they can now understand it.
I'm not sure what degree of experience there is, but it's saying that if a person is able to ascend above the physicality, then they can then understand spiritual things. So I don't know what level of experience that is. Beyond what they would have been able to had they stayed here, yes.
I'm saying, whatever they were able to transcend, can they go beyond that as well, or just to understand?
It just, the way he's saying it right now is that they are able to understand spiritual things that they would not have been able to understand otherwise. Yeah. So that's as much as I know. But when I get there, I'll let you know.
Is there any modern examples?
Are there any modern examples? Let's wait for him to finish explaining exactly what he's talking about.
Okay.
And then we'll see.
All right.
Okay. In addition to this level of understanding, he can also be more successful in ha'amadas hametzius kulam al ha'matzav ha'tov v'nois b'hem. In the way things are set up and the way things are going and the way things are being done around you, your experiences, all of that a person can be more successful in, lamalo lamata b'shoshem u'va'anafim, both in the upper realms and in the lower realms, in the roots and in the branches, everything. So a person, it seems like, is not only able to understand what's going on better, but a person can also perhaps even adjust what's going on, which is a very interesting concept. But it sounds like he's saying that a person is able to establish things as they happen in a certain way, which you wouldn't be able to otherwise. So in this sentence, it kind of sounds like he's saying a person has the ability to almost affect the world around them, to do things. That's what it sounds like he's saying. I didn't see any of the commentaries really having anything to say about this. It's just, they're like, yeah, no explanation necessary. I kind of wish they didn't, but anyway, that's what it seems like. So,
well, this would be what we discussed earlier about the shefa, from lamala to lamata to lamala, like bringing down the shefa.
Yes.
Or what everything has an effect on the world, right?
Yes.
Our actions are from our thoughts to our speech to our actions. So this isn't like new information, so to speak. To me, at least, it sounds like I could be off the mark. That he's just telling us again that everything that a person does affects the world.
Right. So what's happening with this person that's different than what happens with me? This person who's transcending physicality. What's happening differently for him than what's happening for me?
So you have more control.
It sounds like he's saying you have some degree of control. That's what I think it sounds like he's saying. Well, so there's an understanding. That's one aspect. Then there's the second aspect of more success. Tala biyada means you got it. You did it. You get it more.
More shefa.
I don't know. So the way Rabbi Nyman says it here on the bottom, he says, in addition to reaching new levels of understanding, a person's actions are also more powerful in the spiritual realm. For example, the Gemara in Sukkah states that when Yonasan ben Uziel would study Torah, every bird that flew over him would be burned. His Torah was like fire because he activated the spiritual realm in a powerful way. So it sounds like what he's saying is that if a person does get to this level, then their influence on what goes on around them is more powerful. It's heightened. It's strengthened. It's sharpened. Huh?
Shabbos dinner was very easy.
Yeah.
With the bird. Start with the bird.
That's right. Right. The Gemara talks about that the sages would create animals to eat. There was a whole discussion if they needed shechita or not. But they would create animals. So it sounds like there is this ability to actually change the physical world around you in a certain way.
This would be like the golem, Rob.
Would that be like the golem? Perhaps. Perhaps. Being able to bring something to life? Yeah, possibly.
So how do we get this superpower?
Well, for starters, you got to pay membership. No, it sounds like these are the greatest people ever in history.
Like ascetics or like...
Well, he wasn't so into asceticism, but he was saying that people who are purely spiritual and that their entire focus in life is spirituality, and everything they do is spiritually minded, these are people who can ascend the rungs of spirituality. And it seems like this is right up there with the highest levels, or maybe it is the highest level, I don't know. He hasn't really explained much. But he's saying this exists. He's not explaining how to get there. He's saying this exists. Hashem put into creation the ability for people on a certain level to ascend spiritually above the physical, and then they can accomplish these things. He didn't say how to get there. He's just saying this is what happened.
Isn't there a beginner's level, though, that we are all on? I mean, we're here in a class.
Yes.
We've learned in our Tuesday class that when we perform mitzvahs, it actually improves
Yes.
things around us.
Yes.
And this translation says, better elevate all existence to its preferred good state.
Yes.
So, I mean, if we act and behave and believe in good, then it encourages
Oh, for sure.
everything around
Oh,
us.
absolutely. But don't confuse that with what he's talking about. He's talking about a whole different level. He's talking about a level of someone who's transcending physicality entirely. So, like when you're sleeping, you know?
Oh, right, like the physics of this is impossible, but
Right.
They
So
make-
right.
they
So
make
we're
it happen.
talking about another level here. So I'm not saying that what you're saying isn't accurate. It's absolutely accurate, but that's not this. This is like next level. Next level.
things that people don't believe happen.
That too. Yeah. Yeah.
You say the same thing about Shem Baruch Echad, about the birds.
Whereas there's a few people.
Yeah, but it was Rebbe Elazar, his son, right? But no, that was everything they looked at. Rav Shimon and Rebbe Elazar was everything that they looked at burnt up.
Okay.
They saw fields, and they saw people working in their fields, and they were so disgusted why people could be into anything physical, and they just burned them up by looking at them. So that was
a
similar.
negative.
And then Hashem sent them back into the cave and said, I didn't take you out to destroy my world. Go back and learn how to appreciate that too. Which took another many years. So yeah, he had to go up, and then he had to go up more, but that level in between, he was already, burning them up. Okay. Okay, so you wanted to know of a modern day example. So what comes to my mind is there are people, great people, who have a different level of understanding things than other people. So, for example, I had a coworker of mine in camp. I forgot his name. He was a Rebbe. He was teaching the kids, and he was probably 30 or 40 years older than I am, and hopefully he still is. And he mentioned once that he had gone to the Stipler. That's Reb Chaim Kanievsky's father. Now, the Stipler was a very, very serious fellow. And he said...
Yonah ben Uziel was the one with the birds.
Well, that's what it says here.
Oh.
That's what I just read to you. Thanks for paying attention. I'm kidding. He said that he once went to the Stipler, and it said he walked into the Stipler's room, and the Stipler started yelling at him about things that he had done wrong. And he just turned around and ran. But like someone like that, someone like the Stipler, who literally all he needed to do was look at someone, and then he was able to see things about that person that obviously the rest of us can't see. That's probably a level of what he's talking about over here. That he had a certain perception that other people don't have.
So, at what point, because this is something that's always kind of like, it's related, but also
Not.
Like you talk about the great rabbis, like how they got to that point.
How do they get there?
Like, not necessarily how they got there, but like, who determines that?
Who determines that? So the Vilna Gaon. Heard of the Vilna Gaon?
Yeah.
So the Vilna, in Yiddish, Vilnar means if you only want. So the Gaon means a brilliant man, a genius. So the Vilna Gaon once told his follower, they asked him, how do you get to such a level? He says, Vilnar is a Gaon. If you just want to, you can become like this as well.
Right.
Meaning
but
it's willpower.
Yes, but also I feel like the great rabbis are not also going to like go tout themselves as great rabbis, right?
Correct.
So like
how do we find them?
How do you know?
You don't know. Let me tell you a great story about that. So Rabbi Daniel Stam, a friend of mine, some people may get his emails. He sends out a weekly Dvar Torah. He's great. He's also he's a social counselor. He's a therapist. He all sorts of fun stuff. A rabbi. So he wrote once about a certain guy who used to roam around where he lived, an old Jewish guy from Europe, and he would just say crazy things. And he said, like, he walked by these buildings like, oh, I built that. Like, you're just cuckoo, right? This guy just wasn't 100%, right? And he said one time he walked into the Babaver shul, and the Baba was a huge Hasidus, and the Babaver Rebbe went over to him and was, had a whole thing with him, and everyone's like, this guy's a nut job. Anyway, so after he died, it turns out that there were some people who actually knew him for who he was. And he was this extremely great, Kabbalist. And they went into his apartment and they found he just had like hundreds of Kabbalistic works that he was writing and reading, and people were starting to explain the wacky things that he said. And like when he said he built that building, because it was something like what he was saying was that like the number of stories that building was the number of chapters that he had mastered in a certain tractate or something. And he's like, yeah, I built this, meaning to say, like, this was my accomplishment, that I accomplished that much. And he had all these things, and everyone thought he was everyone thought he was a kook job.
Yeah.
But some of the greatest people recognized him for who he was.
Right.
And they respected him for who he was. So, you're right, the average person, we don't necessarily know. No, they knew during his lifetime. Yeah. And people go to his graveside now to daven for things. Because he was this really special. I don't even know that I can look it up. He was just like one of these Borough Park nut jobs that everybody thought. But it turned out he was like this tremendous tzaddik who knew everything and beyond.
Yeah, I think for the novice, that would be me, it's like hard to know, like, obviously there's certain trust I put in you, for example, and if you tell me that this person is like legit, but if we don't really know,
we don't.
Like,
no, we don't really know. How do you know who to trust?
Yeah.
So thankfully, most of these people aren't going around telling prophecies. So it's not like there's anything to trust or not to trust.
Right.
But if you walk into the room and they start telling you something about yourself that there's absolutely no way they can know, because this is your first time in Israel and you spent your entire life in America, and this rabbi's never been out of Israel in his life and has never met you and doesn't know your name, and he's starting telling you things about yourself, that's someone who you're going to trust, right?
Right, but not every single one of us has those experiences. It's the same way that like I think about like kashrus, right? So like there's certain hechshers that you trust, certain ones you don't. Like I said, I'm going down a wormhole here.
Yes.
Or a rabbit hole, which very appropriate. But like I think for like trying to understand this concept, like it's obviously like somewhere out here.
Yes.
But has application to like real life stuff because.
So let's put it this way, just to give you a barometer to work with. The Rambam says, how do you trust a prophet? How do you know? He tells you, go worship at 6 a.m. How do you know if you should trust him or not? So the Rambam says, let's say he performs a miracle. So that's not good enough. We have to know previously that this is a righteous spiritual person. If we don't know that, we don't listen to him.
Isn't that like kind of what happened with Shabtai Tzvi also?
Shabtai Tzvi, yes, that was definitely part of the problem. But yeah, Shabtai Tzvi was a fake. He was a Kabbalist, so he was able to do some tricks.
Kyle suffered because of that. Kyle lived right after.
Yeah, and a lot of people wouldn't listen to him because they were afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there have been fakes. That's definitely true. And unfortunately, he pulled a lot of people after him. A lot of people followed him.
Yeah.
But the greatest sages of the generation said no.
Okay.
That's who you got to listen to. You always have to listen to the greatest.
Right.
So like today, you have some great sages. They're not great sages because they're spewing prophecies or they're performing miracles. They're sages because we know them,
Okay.
and we've known them for a long time.
Okay.
The Chazon Ish, who was probably the most famous in recent times for doing miraculous type things and knowing things that nobody should know, he did not come out, so to speak, as this great sage until he was about 70. And at that point, the only reason he did was because the other sages of the generation told him he had to. But he was just sitting quietly in his studying, 20 hours a day.
And study.
So, if you have anybody you're not sure about, I'll Google them.
I mean, it's just, I think that, like, as you're learning more about these things, like, how much of it is, like, truth versus opinion, and whether, and I'm not doubting this way, it's more like the philosophical, like, well, how do you know? It's not that I'm saying no, how do you, that person can't be. It's just like, I don't see how you could know.
Have you ever met any of these people?
No.
Right. All it takes is
That's
one
the
look.
thing, I don't know.
You just have to look at them once.
Yeah?
I had the opportunity to meet Rav Elyashiv.
Yeah.
I never doubted a word he said after that.
Okay. That's fair.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I saw him once. That's all it took. It was a very, very unique experience. All right, so let's continue on over here. All right, Dalet. V'hine.
Water drinkers.
Chaim. Hechina hachachma ha'alyayna she'imatzei bittul gvul megvulei teva ha'chemer ba'olam hazeh. Hashem decided that there will be opportunities, there will be times in which the boundaries of the physical, of the world, of the natural laws, that separate a person from the spiritual, that there will be times in which these boundaries, these borders that are keeping us from connecting to the spiritual, will be suspended, and a person will be untied, unbound from being stuck with these binds. And he will be able to stand in a way, in an experience that is beyond the physical experience, until he's at a point that he can actually have a connection with the spiritual realm. Even though he's still in this world, and he's still living in his physical body, nevertheless, he can transcend that, and the laws of physics that had previously bound him to the physical will be untied, and he'll be able to ascend and experience the spiritual. It's not that every border, every boundary is able to be broken. That's not the case. Only certain ones. So there are certain avenues that can be traveled on in order to get here. Not all of them. Not all of physicality can be ascended from, but only certain things. Only those which Hashem, in His wisdom, saw fit, the kavana haklalish hanhaga, for that which is necessary for the world to reach its goal. As we explained earlier, and even those ways that can be done are only done in a very specific way. So there have to be specific circumstances, it has to be done in a certain way, and even then only certain things can be done. But when everything lines up, this is what can happen. Those physical boundaries and borders that shackle a person can be removed. V'ulam, however, hiskina chachmasa yizbarach shemai emtsoyim la'adam. Hashem in His wisdom created certain ways, certain means for a person shebehem yuchal lahasig atachlis hazeh, that through them a person is able to accomplish this task. Em yirtzeh, if he wants, v'yishtadel bam, and he tries. So this is something that's doable. Dahainu, what are we talking about? We're talking about bitul gvulei hateva elam mimenu, the cessation of these physical boundaries that keep a person down here. V'hatziv atzmai b'matzav shezacharnu, and a person can, when done properly, set themselves up in this other realm while still in this world. V'chol inyanim toli b'mashav shireu ata, and all of that is based on what Hashem has decided is appropriate for the time. You should know. Kihine nizbar, we've already explained. Shekiyum kol ha'metzios kulam, the sustenance and the existence of everything that exists, b'chlal v'perteim, in general and in specific, einei ela ha'adam baruch hu. Everything is Hashem Himself. V'nimtza, so it comes out, shekol ha'nimtzais v'sidrayim, that everything that happens, and the order in which they happen, the organization, everything, whether that's in the spiritual kaichos, whether it's in the spiritual creations that are below that, or we're talking about down here in the physical world, all of those things, is only because, all of this existence is only because Hashem continues to put that existence into creation.
I have a question.
Yes?
Might be two. All right, so would the person having this experience be aware?
Yes.
And could it happen while they're awake?
Could it happen while they are awake? Okay, so that's a good question. I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
This is not prophecy we're talking about here.
Right. It's just experiencing a higher level of things.
Correct.
So, like, I'm trying to think. I need examples, but we don't need one right now. I'm just saying, like, how would you know?
How would you know?
How would you know this is happening? I guess you would just know.
Of course you know.
And
it doesn't just happen by itself.
Right.
It's something that a person can do.
Right. So they're making it happen.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Never mind. Yeah.
I have a question too. So the boundaries that could potentially be transcended, are these going to be, there's like a set of sort of equal opportunity boundaries that could be transcended, or is it maybe based on the individual?
So what he said was that everything is specific, which means that for this person at this time in this place, this opportunity exists.
It doesn't necessarily mean that somebody else will have that opportunity.
Correct. And he also said not all of them are ever able to be changed. There are some that are never changed and never broken.
By anybody.
Right.
Anybody done this before?
Yeah, I finished my test last night.
Yeah.
That means that I transcended the physical. There's no way I could have finished that test last night.
He usually finishes it like the next Friday.
Yeah. Test
I
for
started and finished the test all last night.
what test for what?
I think it's
A weekly
okay.
definite
It takes me
test.
hours to
Gotcha.
take.
Yeah, you didn't get this week's test, right?
No.
You don't want to take
Well, wait, and
I
you
don't
still
like
took a
taking
donut?
Yeah. Listen, I earned it. You
Yeah.
don't even know. You
I
don't know how
don't.
this week was.
I don't
earned it.
know.
Trust me.
I'll trust you.
So, I'm thinking about how you, like, there's no instructions in here on how you do this. Because sometimes I just want to, like, not be here, you know? Like, it just transcend and, like, maybe, I don't know, feel something more.
Well, it sounds like this is not a... I don't think this is...
Suicidal ideations.
No. There's just, like, sometimes I'm like, what else is out there?
Oh, you're
sounds
just like curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not what this is
That's
about.
not what this is.
No.
No.
But
No.
I'm trying to,
I
like...
hear where you're coming from, though. I feel that.
Like,
This is
it would be nice
the
if I could,
product
like,
of a lifetime of spiritual
Right.
pursuit.
Let me ask, do you want to
So
sleep
you're not
forever?
getting this.
No.
Do you just want to sleep forever?
No.
Don't ask Dr.
No.
Krako that one.
Yeah. No, it's okay. So it's more like if you can connect to the spiritual, it allows you to, like, I guess, gain a deeper sense of purpose.
For sure,
Right.
yes.
So that's what I'm after. It's not that I want to like not be here.
Okay, but you might not need all this to get that.
Right. I don't know. I just got the wheels.
You could get a sense of purpose without transcending. You can get a
That'll be
sense
a
of
different
purpose
class.
by, like, learning.
Yeah, it's a different class.
That's Pirkei
Yes.
This is like this is how my stupid brain works. This is like you finish the video game and you've unlocked like
Yes.
extra stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's hard enough. It's hard enough.
More
To finish,
lives.
it's hard enough to finish the game.
Right.
Right. It's hard enough to like sit down and dedicate yourself to finishing the game.
So where's the cheat code then?
There's no cheat code.
Ah,
Where's the down, left, right, B, A, C,
that's
start
right.
now.
This is Dark
Konami.
Souls, okay?
Yes.
There is that's a game. It's a very hard game.
Yes.
It's- There's no cheat codes.
Listen, hard game for me would have been Contra because no matter 30 lives or not, I still
Yep,
couldn't beat it.
that's right.
So that's fine. Okay.
Yeah, but the thing is that with Dark Souls, you can go on YouTube and watch the pros and see how they do it.
That's true.
So essentially,
Cheating.
that's kind of what we're doing here.
That's cheating.
If you could live this spiritual life, you'd have the guidance that you needed.
That's not cheating. That's just learning.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Watching how the pros do something is not cheating. That's called paying attention.
Right.
So this is the way to do it. This is how the designers intended for you to do it. They just didn't tell you that.
Right.
So somebody figured it out. Now you follow their lead. So that's essentially the way it works here too. You need to learn. You need to commit yourself to this. And if you're able to do that, the way will become clear. And you'll follow the path. That's how it works.
Yeah, I don't do it.
No? Yes? Okay. Moving on?
Everybody's
Yes?
now they're talking about my
All right. Then we're going to move on. No one's objecting.
control the time.
Okay. Vine. Unimtza umizgala el kol nimtzav. So, here's an interesting thing here. This line here is very interesting. He says that Hashem is around and he reveals himself to all things, all creation. So this is a very interesting line over here. What exactly does he mean by that? So Rav Chaim Friedlander explains that what he means is that when we see the will of Hashem happening and we recognize this is what Hashem wants, that's Hashem's way of revealing himself to us. Meaning his will is revealed to us. When we see events and we once in a while are privileged to understand them, that's Hashem showing us himself. He's showing us, I'm running the world. This is how I'm running it. This is what I'm doing. So once in a while we get to see that. And I that's Rav Chaim Friedlander. I think that's what he says is what we're talking about here.
The problem with that is that it's right in a section where it's talking about transcending. So, like, you understand that you have to say maybe that you have the capability to understand more. In other words,
Well, this really isn't. This part here, when he started Da, he's kind of going off on a little bit of a tangent, and he'll kind of circle back around afterwards. But right now, we're not talking about transcendence. Now we're just talking about the way the world works. He's kind of going back to chapter 1 here for a little bit. He's saying the whole world exists because Hashem puts it into existence. And it only continues to exist because Hashem continues to give it that existence. And Hashem makes himself available and reveals himself to this existence. And he's gonna finish this thought by saying that works through Shefa, and that a person who transcends is able to access Shefa or whatever. So at this point we're not talking about the transcendence. Now we're just talking about the way the world works.
why is he doing this?
Because he's going to finish his thought by saying that the people who do transcend have a certain access to that Shefa. But he's kind of just reintroducing the concept of Shefa. We'll see. But he's just kind of reintroducing the concept of Shefa first. Okay. So,
We said that everything is Shefa. Everything comes down.
right, yes. So, in order to understand that, you have to start off by understanding that Hashem is constantly
Willing it to be.
exactly. So that's kind of where we're just backtracking
okay.
to pick up that momentum. So, umashpia bam kefima sharoy lehem lekim inyanim. Hashem is going to send down whatever happenings and influence and what we call shefa to every existence based on what it needs at that time. V'nimtu hashpais rabbis hashanes, which means every shefa is going to be different. There's all different types and amounts and power and method and all of that. Kafi riba hamakavlim v'shinuyim, based on the number of recipients of the shefa and their situations. Uva hashpos hahein tol hamitzias kol hamitzias, and based on this shefa is every existence. Everything that exists through the shefa that Hashem sends to it. Kol hamitzias lebach lekasam v'chol yaneim, every single one in its own way. Every different thing gets its different shefa. Ukeshayimashchu hashpos hahein. And when these shefa, the plural is hashpa'is, when they go down and they emanate from Hashem, Yuvaldu kol tiladas and aladamehen, then all the things that happen in the world, that's how they happen. They happen through this shefa that comes down. B'chol ishtalshus and mitzayis, with the whole chain system that we described, k'fima shasider, the way Hashem arranged it all. Yikablu hamalachim me'eris bar shemai hamizgal aleim. So the malachim receive the lights from Hashem through the kochos. Mashi yikablu, whatever they're going to receive. V'yashviu al yenu l'tachtainim mehem, and then the higher ones will pass it down to the lower ones. L'tachtainim l'tachtainim, the lower ones to the lower ones. Ad sevish talshos kuli, until it makes it all the way down the chain down here in this world. So that's the system that Hashem runs the world with. Oh gosh, it's late. So this system is a system we're all familiar with. I kind of just went through this quickly. But this system is a system in which everything, we need to understand, every single thing comes directly from Hashem in the form of shefa. And as that comes down, that's how things happen. Okay, now we are past time here, so I'm going to have to stop. But I'll just tell you where he's going with this, because it's kind of mid-thought. Where he's going is that a person is able to, in certain ways, and the way he's going to describe is by saying Hashem's name, a person is able to kind of access this chain system, this link system. So we'll have to get into that in Mitzvah Hashem next week. All right, thank y'all for coming. Doc, I'm impressed you stayed awake. You must have slept well.
How do you know?
Have a good one, Len. Thanks for coming.
Okay.
I did not sleep.
All right.